This is Rosen Institute's Your Law Firm, where Lee Rosen and Ned Days cover management, marketing, finance, and new technologies for building the practice you deserve. Here's Lee Rosen.
It's good to be with you today from Yogyakarta, Indonesia. It's the home of the largest Buddhist temple in the world. The temple is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and we went out there the other day in a Grab, one of the Asia equivalents of Uber, and it was hot. And it's hot because it's always hot in Southeast Asia, but it was a pretty interesting tour. We climbed to the top of the temple, going up lots of stairs, wearing these government-issued sandals that we were required to wear. Apparently, the sandals prevent damage to the temple. I was moving pretty carefully to avoid falling down on the stairs in these awkward bamboo shoes. I survived, and so did the temple. Being a tourist, it's never a dull moment. It presents something new, no matter where we go.
It's time for your tech tip. We are already a couple of months into the new year, and there has been a flurry of small but useful enhancements to your office communication software. I want to touch on a few useful features in Google Workspace and Microsoft Teams that are available now and coming in the next couple of weeks that you could easily miss if you weren't looking for them. Now, the first one isn't about a Google or Microsoft product. It is from Apple. They obviously aren't after the business productivity suite market, but they have just introduced an interesting app called Invites that I think you may find useful for personal and potentially office and team use too. All you need is a paid iCloud account, and you can then use it in your browser on iCloud.com, or you can download the Invites app from the App Store on your iPhone or iPad. It's fairly straightforward and at the moment pretty simple. You create events, complete with date, time, location, and notes, and then you send out the invites. And the best part is that the attendees don't need an iCloud account or Apple device to RSVP. There are a few more niceties if they do, but no special accounts or signups are required. You can share a link where people can RSVP, you can invite people directly, you can manually approve RSVPs, allow your invited guests to bring additional guests, and even send notes to everyone who has RSVP'd so far. If you are planning parties, work events, group meetings with referral sources, or anything else, it's a basic but shockingly useful platform to manage everything. And again, if you're already paying for an iCloud account, it's included. Moving over to Google Workspace, Google Chat has received a few welcome upgrades. You may be thinking, what is Google Chat? Well, Google has introduced and reconfigured and renamed and eliminated and resurrected literally dozens of office communications tools over the past few years. And what a lot of Google Workspace users don't realize is that they have been working away reinventing a lot of the old tools and combining them into what is effectively a Slack or Teams clone called Google Chat. Polls and surveys are now available in Google Chat. It's an app in the Chat Workspace store. Again, something that's been pretty easy to do in Slack and Teams for a while, but it's encouraging that Google keeps adding things to Chat at a steady clip. It's definitely become a viable group chat replacement if you are already in Google Workspace and looking to reduce the number of subscriptions to other software. Something else they've recently added are huddles. These are exactly the same as Slack huddles, ad hoc voice chats with an individual or group without needing to start up a dedicated Google Meet session. Now, this also isn't new. In fact, you used to be able to do this in Google Hangouts or Duo or whatever service they happened to have that week, but it's been missing for a long time. But everything old is new again, and now we have group voice chats back. Now, likely more interesting is Google's Take Notes For Me functionality in Google Meet. You know that I am a huge fan of AI meeting assistants that record the calls you're on and then give you a transcript, summary, and action items from the call. Google started rolling out a built-in solution called Take Notes For Me in Google Meet back in August of 2024, but it took quite a while to roll out to everybody. It is now widely available, and you should see it as an option in your Google Meets, but it's been a little limited compared to dedicated tools. You get a transcript and a basic summary saved as Google Docs in your Drive, but that was it. Thankfully, Google has just introduced a Next Steps feature, essentially the tasks or action items that were discussed on the call, and something other services have included for a while now. This has just started rolling out and should be generally available in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Microsoft has obviously done this for a while too with their Copilot add-on for Teams calls. Now that this is built into Meet and Teams, if you haven't been using one of these AI meeting assistants, you really have no excuse. But while it is great to have this functionality included right in our Office software, it's also worth remembering that third-party meeting assistants work across multiple platforms. So if you're not just hosting events in your preferred platform, but attending meetings in Meet, Teams, Zoom, and others, a dedicated tool like Otter or Fireflies still makes a lot of sense. Now moving over to Microsoft and Teams in particular, the Copilot summaries of voice and video calls that we just talked about are very helpful, and Microsoft has just rolled out a new feature called Facilitator. This generates meeting summaries and action items in real time in the sidebar of a meeting, and these can be edited on the fly. This Facilitator functionality also works in the sidebar on long text chats inside of Teams, so if you have a long-running chat or are often struggling to keep up with the relevant details on a particularly busy channel that has lots of useful information, but also a lot of fluff, you can now enable real-time, up-to-date summaries that highlight the key tasks and questions. And that Facilitator functionality is going to come in handy for a few other interesting features that are being rolled out on 365 business plans right now. The first is a live chat functionality for Teams. This will allow you to connect a website live chat directly to your Teams workspace, so you don't need another tool or dashboard to interact with clients and potential clients on the website. Similarly, SMS chat is also rolling out for Teams right now, so you will be able to connect a number and have SMS communications with clients and potential clients right inside of Teams instead of needing a separate or dedicated phone platform. Given how much time a lot of us spend in the firm chat and meeting apps, these features will likely make a pretty big difference in our day-to-day productivity. I'm Ned Days, and that's your tech tip.
And now for your moment of concise advice. Recently, I spoke with an immigration lawyer about her long-term cases. These cases are cases that stretch on for years due to government delays. The process is apparently very, very slow. I imagine that there are other cases in other practice areas that take just as long. The legal system is not known for being quick, so I'm sure many of us have cases that just drag on forever. Well, she's dealing with these immigration cases, and she's charging a fixed fee of $3,000 or $4,000, sometimes maybe a little more than that, but generally in that $3,000 or $4,000 range. And she believes that these cases are profitable. At least she believed that until we finished this conversation and did some of the math. And we started talking about the work that's involved. We did some math and we calculated the frequency of contact between the client and the law firm. And we figured that over a 3-year-long case, and apparently some of them drag on even longer, that the client would want to speak to someone from the law firm at least 18 times. That's once every other month for 3 years. And then the firm is going to discuss this file at least a little bit in weekly file reviews. Some firms may do that weekly, some may do it monthly, some may do it every 2 weeks, but she is spending enough time. When we did the math using her $400 hourly rate, she is spending enough time to justify $2,240 in monitoring the case alone. That's $2,240 of what is likely a $3,000 or $4,000 fee, and we're not accounting for any of the actual legal work that's done on the case. That's not counting for client calls other than status checks. It's not counting for drafting and filing and legal research and all of that. The reality is that that's more than half of her fee just being used to keep the case moving, or more realistic, to keep the case waiting rather than doing any of the work on the file. And that's just not going to work. The reality is that she's not running a profitable practice, at least with respect to these cases. She's running her business on cash flow. What she's doing here is hoping that the new clients coming in will pay these fixed fees and they will keep things rolling along, that the cash flow will be positive. But cash flow, it's not profit. And magical thinking, it simply isn't a business strategy. This approach does not work over time. And while this example is from an immigration practice, let's be really clear here. This analysis, it applies to every practice area. Whether you're handling personal injury or estate planning or family law or business disputes, the principle is the same. Don't talk yourself into unprofitable work. No matter how good your argument sounds to yourself in your head, that work is not profitable when you're waiting that long and spending that much time and money monitoring the file. The numbers just don't add up. And if the numbers don't add up, you're not doing yourself or your clients any favors. When you charge too little, it forces you to either cut corners or to exhaust yourself trying to make it work. You're not performing effectively on behalf of any of your clients when you're exhausted. Neither option, neither cutting corners nor exhausting yourself, neither builds a sustainable business. It just doesn't work. So what do? What's the fix? Well, first of all, you have to know your numbers. How much time are you really spending on each case? What's the actual cost of delivering your service? Without having clear data, you're flying blind. You have no idea. The next thing you need to do is adjust your fees to reflect reality. If it turns out that you're not charging enough to cover your time and expertise and overhead, well, then you're subsidizing your clients. And that's not sustainable. That will not work over time. If your clients, if they won't or can't pay what your services ought to cost, then you have a choice to make. You can either spend less time on delivering the work, that's the first option, or you can stop doing the work altogether. That's the second option. If you want to keep doing the work and you want to spend less time on it, then give it a shot. Streamline processes using tools like CRMs and automation and AI, and use those tools to reduce the time spent on the routine tasks. But if the math still doesn't work, then you need to look hard at cutting those cases from your practice. Now, this isn't about giving up. No, what it's about is focusing on the work that supports your business and your goals. Not all legal work is a problem that you're meant to solve. You are not the first person to bump up against this price-cost barrier. It's so easy to see it in other practice areas. For example, small claims cases or traffic tickets. Those are cases that are unprofitable for law firms, and most law firms won't handle them. It's a lot harder to see it, though, when the work that we're talking about is the bread and butter of your practice. But you've got to see it. You've got to do the math. All of us tread over this line and end up doing unprofitable work. It's got to be avoided, and oftentimes that means disappointing clients. It means letting people down. But hard decisions, they are part of running a successful business. So charge more or spend less, or shift your focus to more lucrative practice areas. Because if you keep chasing unprofitable work, the only thing that you're building is stress and a business that's constantly running to stand still. Don't wait until the music stops. I often think of these businesses that are surviving on cash flow as being much like a game of musical chairs. At some point, the music is going to stop and a chair is going to be pulled away. Don't wait until the music stops. Fix the numbers now. That's your moment of concise advice. Wrapping up from Yogyakarta, thanks for spending a few minutes with me and Ned today. We hope you have a great weekend and an even better week next week. Keep plugging away, moving forward, and getting things done. You're on the right track. You'll get there, I promise. We're all in this together, and together we build better practices through better marketing, better management, and better technology. Until next time, I'm Lee Rosen.
Thanks for listening to Your Law Firm. Subscribe to the Friday File at roseninstitute.com and join thousands of lawyers focused on working on, instead of in their practices. You'll find safe, successful, actionable approaches for transforming your firm. Sign up for free at roseninstitute.com.